Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com. A bunch of you have asked me, and I've also got some emails from people asking me if I'd seen the Met's new Tristan und Isolde and what I thought about it if I had. The answer is no. I have no plans to see the Met's new Tristan. I really couldn't care less about the Met's new Tristan. And, I feel as though I've already seen it because it's gotten so much attention, which is the Mets' intention, obviously, that I feel as though I've seen it and don't even need to. Lisa Davidson's terrific. Michael Spires is more controversial, but generally it seems pretty good. Nazgul Snezik-Yegin, the conductor, does a decent enough job with the Met Orchestra. The production by Yuval Sharon involves like a time tunnel and a circle and mime people doing things and a table and it's very high concept, but some people think it's not high concept enough, but other people think the concept, the New York Times, for example, the concept was rather tame compared to what it could have been. Well, that's always true, isn't it? And reading all of the literature about the Tristan, I do have some commentary, actually, some opinions about things, and they're going to be very, very, very puerile and retro. I freely admit, totally, because that's the kind of guy I am. And, I saw pictures of this whole production and all this stuff. It's par for the course these days, isn't it? You got to have a concept, and it has to be somehow some deep, creepy thing that gets to the innermost bowels of whatever representational, philosophical thing the opera's really about. It's not really about, like, two people who are in love and can't be in love and have a tragic outcome. No. I've only seen Tristan a couple of times. And when I have seen it, I know because it's Wagner, there's just going to be epic quantities of verbal diarrhea spilled about it, because that's what Wagner encourages. He's the verbal diarrhea composer. You just have to talk about it. I'm talking about it. It encourages people to talk about it. But what impressed me so much about Tristan and Isolde was just how well it works on stage, considering the fact that nothing happens. Even Wagner said that. He said, 5 hours and nothing happens. That was Wagner's description of the opera, basically. But it actually, the music just carries you along. It's amazing music, of course. And you really do get involved in the stories of these characters. Tristan and Isolde is not about time tunnels and mimes and concept things. It's a fairy tale. Granted, it's a Schopenhauerian fairy tale, but it's a fairy tale. There's a love potion, for God's sake. There's magic. It's a fantasy. And so rather than treating it as this sort of epic, heavy-duty, super-duper, culturally meaningful, whatever, I would love to see it treated as what it is, a fairy tale about the tragic outcome of two lovers who, are ill-fated. That's the whole story. That's why nothing happens for 5 hours. It's so simple. It's just so incredibly simple. They meet. She hates him. Brangana gives them both the love potion, so they're madly in love, and then the rest of it is, they have love in Act 2 and death in Act 3. It's so simple. And maybe it's because it's so simple, people make this enormous, huge, intellectual, masturbatory episode out of the thing. I can't think of any other reason to do it. It blows my mind, actually, reading all this stuff. But the commentary that really gets me is the commentary from the hardcore cultural doomsayers. There's a bunch of those. They're always talking about how, the world is going to hell, and music is going to hell, and everything is going to hell, and our culture is going to hell, and people don't remember anything, and we have no memory and no history and no taste and no civilization and no cultivation. And so this production is an example of that. It's an example of that, first of all, because it's a Met production, and everything the Met does has to be cheap and commercial, which I think is the best thing about the Met, frankly, the fact that it's cheap and commercial. Apparently, this Tristan has been packing the house. People have been flocking to see it. And that's a bad thing because it shows just how undiscerning everybody is. It would be better if Lisa Davidson, the greatest Wagnerian soprano alive right now, and these people sang their hearts out and nobody showed up, because that would prove that we are a superior culture and civilization, right? Yeah, I mean, that's what these people sort of imply. And then of course, the production itself, Yuval Sharon's production, its concept and all that bullshit, it's either, it's either totally confusing or too simplistic, or it's just gratuitous, or it doesn't say what it's supposed to say, or it doesn't say what the people who are criticizing it say, and it's got circles and time tunnels and tables, and that gives people an opportunity to also talk about how culture is on the wane, and most people enjoy it. I remember reading a review by a certain critic who I won't mention of the Telemann Frauen Schatten at the Met, which was a beautiful production, I thought. I mean, it was the one with the mirrors. It replaced the old production with the boat that was always late at the end of Act Two. They never quite got in it in time to get sucked off to Kaikobad's realm, and it's visually stunning. From what I could see from the pictures, this production was also visually stunning. And opera has to be visually stunning. Quite frankly, if it isn't visually stunning, I don't want to see it. I mean, I walked out of a production of the Met's Pélias and Mélisande because it looks like it took place in a ruin. It was under construction. It was just like wood planks and holes in the floor. Who wants to see that crap? You go spend that kind of money for a production where the opera house has the unbelievable resources of the most sophisticated stage machinery in the world, and you wind up looking at it like a useless derelict? I mean, come on. There's got to be a visual element, and it has to be splendid. I don't even care if it makes any sense. Because, as I said, Tristan and Isolde, for all the crap they do on stage, is about people. It's about these characters and what happens to them. And no matter what you do to the staging, Wagner's music tells us. And if the singing is great, they tell us. I mean, when I saw Tristan and Isolde, it was who was it? Ben Heppner and Jane Eaglin, I think, the last time I saw it at the Met. I mean, they're these two enormous people jumping around the stage, and you can't imagine in any sort of normative situation that these would be like, lovers and that. I mean, there's no sex appeal there at all. But it didn't matter. It didn't matter at all. They sang with their hearts. In the Liebesnacht, they sat together and they just melted together into a beautiful, beautiful, sort of lump of love. I mean, it sounds bizarre, but it worked, and the music told it all. It was phenomenal. So the same thing with the criticism of this Frauen Schatten. The opening scene has, the princess is walking, or the empress, whatever the hell she is walking around in this transparent, this beautiful reflective thing, supposedly showing her transparency or something like that with no shadows, remember? But of course, this person pointed out that, well, no, she's actually been confined to a single shape because she was a shapeshifter, and now she can't shift her shape, and so that set was totally inappropriate and misleading, and she wants to have her shadows so she could have her shape. And I was just like, oh, who cares? Get a life. It looked terrific. It sounded terrific. It was fine. It was just fine. And that's how I feel about this Tristan as well. I mean, what is everyone fetching about? My gosh. I mean, and the idea, I mean, the fact that it's overwhelmingly successful from a popular audience standpoint, doesn't that tell us all we need to know about how healthy our culture is and how good things are? I mean, you may not like Nézet-Séguin's conducting. You may not like some of the singing. You may not like the production, but it's hugely successful. They're pulling in audiences to go see 5 hours of nothing, happening. And I'm a little bit mystified by the commentary. The truth of the matter is, 99.9% of the commentary about this production, which I have seen and read and thought about, is, like I said, nothing but mental masturbation. It's smart people predicting cultural doom, fulfilling their own prophecies, and speaking to each other, not to us, not to the audience, not to the public. I mean, do they really want people to think that everything is as dismal as they say it is? When there is so much cultural activity and time and effort and talent going into producing these things. Of course some of them are going to be lousy. Of course some of them are going to suck. I mean, any production of anything that's live is going to have its ups and downs. I mean, you go see Broadway musicals. I mean, I've seen the Book of Mormon a couple times. Some of the performances were better than others. Some nights everybody was on. Some nights everybody was off. You can't take a single event, however glitzy and glamorous and however well promoted, and then make it, symbolic or iconic of everything that's wrong with the world, everything that's wrong with our culture, everything that's wrong with today's audiences. You just can't do that. It's a one-off event. And when you look at the world of culture, as I tend to from my perch up here somewhere, and I see all of the cultural activity that's going on in the world, how you come to the conclusion that there's something wrong just eludes me. I mean, you may not like it, but who cares what you like? I mean, the fact that it's all there, so much of it, and at a time where everyone's telling us, everyone's pissing on the arts, there is no money, everyone's going broke, the whole thing's, and it's all still here. Somehow, it's all still here. It manages to go on, to continue, and sure, 90% of what you see is going to be crap. That's true of anything. So what? I mean, 10% is going to be fabulous. And what we count on is that 10% will be fabulous. And it still is. It still is, as often as not. So, all of the chattering and jabbering and fetching and whining, and it fascinates me. It really does. But I have no sympathy for any of it, quite frankly, because, as far as I could tell, everyone thought it was a good show. One way or another, it was a good show because they loved it, or it was a good show because they hated it. Either way, it got people talking, and that's a success. It got the debate going. And if the doomsayers are right about doom and their predictions ring true and enough people believe in them, maybe they will have a positive impact on what's going, or at least a different impact. Otherwise, no one's going to give a damn about what any of these people have to say, and people will go see the opera, and good for them. I hope they have a splendid time. Keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.